If you run an aesthetic clinic here in Australia, you already know that AHPRA compliance can be, well, one of the most stressful parts of your job. But look, our goal today is not to add to that stress. It's to cut through the noise and give you some real clarity and the confidence you need to market your services the right way. You've probably felt it, right? That little knot in your stomach just before you hit post on a new photo or a story. You're wondering, is this caption okay? Could this get me into trouble? That feeling is so common, and honestly, it's completely understandable. Today, we're going to demystify these rules so you can finally feel like you're in control. So let's just get it out there. This fear around compliance is totally real. But here's the thing that might surprise you. Most of the time, when clinics get it wrong, it's not because they're trying to mislead people. It usually comes down to a simple, fundamental misunderstanding. And this is the absolute key to unlocking all of it. You're providing a regulated health service. You're not selling a pair of shoes or a designer handbag. All the rules that work for a normal retail store, flash sales, customer reviews, creating hype, they just don't apply in this world. The second you shift your mindset from retail to healthcare, everything starts to click into place. To make this even easier, we can pretty much boil down AHPRA's guidelines into 3 simple rules. Seriously, if you run every single piece of marketing you create through this little 3-part filter, you are going to catch 90% of the potential problems. So let's break them down. First, just remember, the higher the risk of a procedure, the more closely AHPRA is going to look at how it's advertised. And cosmetic procedures? Yep, they are definitely in that higher risk category. Second, your advertising's main job is to protect and inform the public, not to persuade them or create a fear of missing out. And third, and this is a big one, you, the clinic, are responsible for everything. That means content from your marketing team, your staff, and yes, even the social media influencers you partner with. It all falls on you. Okay, let's get really practical now and talk about the place where clinics stumble the most: social media. AHPRA has some very specific rules about what you can and can't do on platforms like Instagram and Facebook. This is, without a doubt, the #1 mistake we see clinics make. You get a fantastic, glowing 5-star review from a super happy patient, and what's your first instinct? Share it, of course. But you absolutely cannot do that. The national law has a complete ban on using testimonials in any of your advertising. So what even counts as a testimonial? Well, AHPRA defines it as basically any positive statement about the clinical side of your service. For example, if a patient posts a story saying, "I'm obsessed with my new lips from Clinic ABC, the results are incredible," and you share that to your clinic's page, that's a breach. The rule is just this simple. If it's positive feedback about a clinical treatment or the outcome, you can't use it to promote your service. All right, the next huge trap is how we use before and after photos. Now, you are allowed to use them, but they come with a very strict set of rules. You can't just treat them like a typical beauty blogger's transformation post. They're considered medical photography, and the entire goal is to inform, not to create some kind of unrealistic fantasy. This is really where you see that difference between retail and healthcare marketing. The images have to be of your real patients. The technical stuff, like the lighting, the camera angle, the patient's posture, it all has to be as identical as possible in both shots so it's a fair comparison. No filters, no retouching, none of that. The photos can't be sexualized, and, crucially, you have to include a clear warning somewhere that says results can vary. Okay, so those social media traps are the most common, for sure, but these core principles apply to all of your marketing. So let's look at a couple of other classic pitfalls that pop up, especially with how you describe yourself and how you frame your offers. Titles, this is a big one. Under Australian law, the title surgeon is legally protected. That means only doctors who have specialist registration in surgery can actually use it. So for example, calling yourself a cosmetic surgeon when you don't hold that specific specialist registration, that's unlawful. You have to be super precise with your title so you don't mislead the public. And here's another one of those retail tactics that is completely off limits in healthcare. You cannot create fake urgency around a medical procedure. The decision to get a treatment should always be based on a clinical need and careful thought, not on the fear of missing out on some special deal. So, any language like limited time offer or book now before it's too late is a huge red flag for AHPRA. The law is specifically designed to stop anything that might encourage people to use a health service when they don't really need it. And creating that artificial rush does exactly that. All right, the scary part. What actually happens if someone makes a complaint about your clinic? This is where a lot of the fear comes from, so let's just walk through the process.
It's a structured system based on risk. It's not some random punishment.
So, when a complaint comes in, the first thing AHPRA does is review the ad or post in question. Then they assess the level of risk it poses to the public. Is this a tiny wording mistake, or is it making dangerous and totally misleading claims? And based on that risk assessment, they decide what to do next. And listen, here's the crucial piece of information that should help you breathe a little easier. For most minor advertising breaches, the process doesn't start with a giant fine. It usually starts with a simple notice. HPRA will typically write to you, explain what they think the breach is, and give you 30 days to fix it. It's designed to give you a chance to correct the mistake. But, and this is a really important but, that 30-day notice is for the less serious stuff. If a breach is considered very serious, or if a clinic has a history of not complying, the consequences get much bigger, and they can escalate all the way to prosecution. And what does that escalation look like? Well, for a serious breach, the maximum financial penalty for an individual practitioner is up to $60,000 for each offense. And for a body corporate, so the company that owns the clinic, that maximum penalty doubles to $120,000. So while the process often starts with a chance to make things right, the potential consequences for ignoring the rules are very, very real. So after all that, what's the big takeaway here? I know it's easy to look at all these rules as just a bunch of annoying restrictions, but there is a much more powerful way to think about this. This is not just about avoiding fines. It's about building a stronger, more trustworthy business. When you get right down to it, AHPRA compliance is perfectly aligned with your professional duty of care. These rules exist to protect patients from being pressured or misled. So, by following them, you're protecting the public. And in doing that, you're protecting your own reputation and your very right to practice. And this, right here, is the thought I want to leave you with. In an industry where trust is absolutely everything, being the clinic that is known for being transparent, responsible, and compliant, that is a massive competitive advantage. Your credibility becomes your best ad, bringing in smart patients who value safety over hype. So the real question is this. When you look at your website, your Instagram, all your ads, are you seeing them through this compliance lens? It's a really powerful shift. And to help you get started, we've actually put together a simple checklist you can download to start reviewing your own content today.